Some of you have the gift of singing. But you're sitting down in the pew saying, whoa, we're not going to get in front of a couple hundred people. What does this man say? I do believe. I believe. What do we tend to say? We say, I believe. I believe. I believe, God, that you have given me maybe these gifts. And if you have not yet taken your spiritual gifts survey, you got access to a computer, do it. It's in the bulletin. If not, there's sheets on the welcome table that you can do it just by longhand, the old-fashioned way. When you do that, you realize that God's given you these gifts to step into. We can stand up here. Sam and Rachel can stand up here and say, we believe. As a congregation, what do we say? I ask you, will you be involved? Will you help teach? Will you help raise? Will you be there for Bible school, for Sunday school, Camp Calvary? Will you be there to encourage them through middle school, elementary, high school, beyond? And what do you all say? We will, we do. But the question is, do we? I don't mean to scold. I just want you to realize we're maybe like this dad who says, I believe, help me overcome my unbelief. See, God's given each one of you at least one. If you are a Christian, if you've accepted Christ into your life, you have at least one gift. You have at least one spiritual gift in your life. If you've accepted Christ, you need to learn to not just simply say, I believe, but Lord, help me overcome my unbelief to step forward, lean into that gift you've given to me. Back to circumcision. Jesus says in verse 25, you deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. The evil spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked like he was a corpse, and many said, he's dead, but Jesus took him by the hand and got him up. When Jesus had gone indoors, the disciples asked him privately, why couldn't we do it? And he says, this kind can only come out by prayer, and some translations say and add by fasting. By prayer and fasting. Exorcism is still valid today. We in America tend to say if somebody's having emotional problems or whatnot, we equate it always to a chemical imbalance. We say, well, there's something physically, mentally, biologically wrong with that person. Or maybe it was their childhood. At times that's true, don't get me wrong. At times it is true, I do believe that. But there are also times that somebody may be possessed. Possessed by a demon. Not possessed by Satan, because you've got to remember, Satan's only one fallen angel. But possessed by one of the other demons that have fallen with Satan. We have the spirit of adultery, spirit of lust, spirit of pride. There's lots of different spirits, if you start doing the study, the different demonic spirits that can enter into us if we give them room or access. Why did my dad not want us to play with the Ouija board? He didn't want us to have an open gate in our life to an evil spirit. Exorcism is not a formula. It's not something you can do for rote, that you can follow a litany or liturgy, but it's something, as Jesus says here, can only be done through prayer, through fasting. John and Chris Crane shared with us Wednesday night in the sermon study group, and we are studying together at 7 o'clock here at church. We go over the passages of Scripture I'm going to look at the next week. So anybody that wants to join us, you're welcome to join, 7 o'clock Wednesday night. But they shared with us in London that their vicar, who is the pastor, their vicar went to a house that there had been an evil spirit in the house, and they did an exorcism, and the spirit left. Again, we don't think that it goes on here in civilized America or in the Western world, that it's only something within Africa, but it is taking place today, here also within America. This is one of the valid spiritual gifts that God has given to somebody. The second one is voluntary poverty. Voluntary poverty. This is to It's to renounce material comforts and adapt a lifestyle equivalent to those at poverty level in order to serve God. Acts chapter 2:42 talks about the fact that the early church, the people who became Christians, sold all that they had, and they came together, and they had everything in common. They become one. We might call it socialism today. But it wasn't a forced socialism. It was because they wanted to share with one another all that they had. Voluntary poverty takes the spiritual gift of contributing. Some of you may remember a few weeks ago we talked about contributing and how God has given some of you the gift to give over and above 10%, over and above a tithe. Some have been given the gift to give 20, 30, 40% of your income. I forget which individual it was, but one of the gentlemen that he either started Sears or Pennies. I don't remember which one. I know I've read about him before. When he started it, he had decided he would save and he would live off 10% of his income and give the 90% away. Well, he became a very wealthy man. He really didn't fit in the voluntary poverty part yet. Voluntary poverty is taking that contributing gift that you have and it goes much deeper. Rich Mullin was a songwriter in the 70s, 80s. Rich Mullin and his wife ended up living at an Indian reservation. Rich Mullin, who wrote the song, which a lot of us know, "Our God is an awesome God, He reigns." If I was a little more up with everything, I would have had the praise band sing that for us this morning. That he wrote that song. He wrote many other contemporary songs that we sing. Rich Mullin decided with his wife they would live at the level of the Native Americans that they live with. He gave all the rest away. Voluntary poverty. St. Augustine. Some of you have maybe heard about St. Augustine. He's 1,500 years ago. Very wealthy man, inherited what we would consider just millions and millions of dollars from his family. He tried wine, women, song. Nothing survived. Nothing lasted. He tried Christianity and he knew it was it. In the process, he gave everything up. All of his goods up. Voluntary poverty calls us to an extreme. It calls us to a radical love for other people. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians 13, well, 1 Corinthians 12 talks all about spiritual gifts. 1 Corinthians 13 is a passage that a lot of people like to have read at their weddings. I've read this probably 100 times at weddings. 12 talks about gifts. 13, Paul says, if I have the gift of tongues and men and angels but don't have love, I'm only a resounding gong. If I have the gift of prophecy and can understand all mysteries and I have all knowledge, but I don't have faith, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but I don't have love, I'm nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, the idea that we pull out that spiritual or that voluntary poverty is a spiritual gift. He just lifts the other gifts of speaking in tongues, of prophecy, of faith, of knowledge. And he says, if I give all that I have to the poor, if I voluntarily give it all up, but have not love, I gain nothing. I don't know if any of you have that spiritual gift of poverty. It's the ability to say, we are going to give most of what we have away. I've heard before of a few families, couples, where they both worked full time and they lived on the one salary and they gave the other salary away. That's voluntarily taking the gift of contributing, moving it over into the gift of voluntary poverty and making it much deeper within their life. The 25th one that we've looked at so far, missionary. Missionary. Literally, to be a missionary, the word means to be sent with authority. To be sent with authority. It's like an ambassador. We have ambassadors from America that go out to different countries and they have authority. The authority they have is not their own, but they carry the authority of the United States of America. They're an ambassador for the President of the United States of America. They are there in the President's